Internet. This is my brother Josh.
This is my sister Anna.
And you're listening to the ADHD Fitness Podcast.
All right, so the topic for today is ADHD barriers to exercise.
Yes.
So I think what we need to do is talk a little bit about, what we've struggled with personally and maybe, what people struggle with in general. So
yes. I would amend that to say it's ADHD barriers to fitness and overall health and wellness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Diet and exercise. I think, addressing diet and exercise is incredibly important for ADHD people.
Yes.
Because it's right up there with medication and therapy. Diet and exercise it's in the top three, medication,
Absolutely.
Therapy, and diet and exercise.
100%.
So, and the thing that's...
For all mental health. I mean, depression, anxiety, everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing that's so comedically tragic about having ADHD is you have to remember to do things and you have to follow through with doing them.
Yeah.
So what's so difficult about that is the dopamine in your brain and the fact that it affects your motivation, it affects your time management, it affects your organization, it affects everything that allows you to start a habit and continue the habit and sustain effort towards a long-term goal.
Yes, all the things that we consider in society to be how to be a responsible adult.
Responsible adult, yeah. ADHD could be considered a deficiency in adulting.
Yes, exactly.
And it sucks that it's looked at that way because, we're really fucking trying over here. Are we allowed to cuss? Did we discuss that?
Yes, I'd say let's keep it to a minimum, but yeah, let's...
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't think I have a filter. I don't have a filter, really, on my speech.
I mean, speak normally, and, I mean...
Yeah, well,
you can always edit things.
But we're going to say that cussing is allowed, I guess.
I guess that is a good thing to mention, that this is an ADHD channel that is designed more for the adult with ADHD or maybe parents of ADHD kids as opposed to...
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not... we're going to be pretty PG-13 on this channel, I would say.
Yeah, so, as much as possible. But like I said, it's hard for me to keep up with my own thoughts and then express those thoughts and think about what I'm saying beforehand and make it all fluid because I'm not medicated. You're not medicated today either.
I'm not medicated today, no. So this will be an interesting experiment.
Yeah, but so you go first. What has been difficult for you to stick to a diet and exercise program?
Okay. Do you want to just go kind of one for one kind of thing? I'll give you one of mine and then you give me one of yours kind of?
Yeah, sure.
Go back and forth. Okay. All right. So the top one for me is keeping a schedule and finding the time, making the time to fit it into my schedule. And these things all bleed together because one aspect of your ADHD affects others. So for me, I found out a long time ago that if I try to work out after work, if I try to go exercise, work out after work, that it's very hit or miss because so much of my mental, emotional, and physical energy is used during the day just to keep pace with the average, neurotypical brain,
Yeah.
And so I'm hustling all day long just to maintain the status quo, I guess.
Yeah.
And so by the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I just want to go home and sit down and watch TV. I don't want to go to the gym after work. And so for me, I had to teach myself to be a morning person. I'm not a morning person naturally.
Oof. Yeah.
But over years of training, I've developed that habit. And so that's a huge thing. And I'm very much a creature of habit. I'm very if I have a schedule, if I have a routine that I can stick to, I'm fine. If anything disrupts that schedule, I'm in big trouble. Everything falls apart. So right now, my workout schedule is I wake up at 4 on most work days. And I ease into the day. I have to have my 2 cups of coffee before anything else happens. And then, I'll walk the dog and I'll get ready to go. And then depending on the day, I either take the dog for a run or I head to the gym. And I got to get there pretty early, 5:30 if I hope to get out of there by 7 to get to work. And that works out okay for me until I have to work late one night. Or, I have to report early to work. If anything gets in the way of that, if anything breaks my schedule, I'm done. So just the other day, I had an event. I won't say too much about my work yet, I guess, but like I work within the school district. And so every once in a while we have to do events either in the evenings for the school or like sometimes I have to report early for certain days or whatever. And so the other day I had to work late and I didn't get home until pretty much bedtime. Usually I'm in bed by like 8:30 and I got home and I hadn't even had dinner yet. So that threw off my entire schedule and I did not work out the next day. And so it's those types of things really interrupt my ability to fit in my habits that I know I should be doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, I didn't find out until recently. We were just talking about this off camera. Was that like getting up out of bed is a barrier to ADHD people. Like having trouble getting out of bed is a symptom of ADHD because it all has to do with the dopamine system in the brain, the reward system. You have like scientifically, neurologically, physiologically in your brain, you have less motivation than the neurotypical, which, I don't want people to get into this, well, I just can't do it because I don't have motivation. That's kind of the wrong way to go with it. There's kind of a balance there where you have to be like, okay, it's okay. These things got in my way.
Yeah.
I'm not a total failure because I failed the one time.
Exactly.
But at the same time, there's accountability there, and it's like, I have to keep doing this. So what gets in my way? Well, first of all, I would say just sustaining effort towards a long-term goal.
Yeah.
I lost about 90 pounds. And that took me years. Like, it took me years to get to a point where I was just sticking to a diet and exercise program.
Yeah.
So it was like I would start and I would work out for maybe 3 or 4 weeks and I would lose weight. I would have success with it, but for whatever reason, it was like, I've been working out for a month and I'm still not shredded. So it's like, it's not perfect. So like I just would lose that motivation and I would lose that, the drive to do it. And then I would just stop. And like, I got up to close to 300 pounds. And I realized that I needed to start working out again, and it took me time after time. It took me probably 4 years of starting a diet and exercise program, and then falling off, and then starting again, and then falling off. And
sounds familiar.
Yeah, and luckily, the past year and a half or so, I've actually finally been able to stick to it, and I lost about 90 pounds, and.
And what was the thing? Was there like a determining factor that like made you finally stick to it, or?
It was a couple things. I think it was learning to trust the process is one of the big things. Like learning to just be like, okay, I woke up today and I didn't see any progress in the mirror. I didn't see any progress on the scale. I might be 2 pounds heavier than I was yesterday, actually, but. That doesn't mean that my diet and exercise program has stopped working. Yeah. It doesn't mean that my metabolism is broken in some way. Because that's a lot of what I thought was like, oh, I'm just a fat person. Like I can't lose weight because my metabolism doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. That's not the case at all. It's just that I didn't trust in the process. And when it got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm just going to put my faith in what we're doing. I'm going to continue to go to the gym. I'm going to continue to watch what I eat. Even when I don't feel like it's working. Yeah. And then it worked. Yeah. Because it was working.
Because it's the consistency.
I couldn't see it. It's the consistency.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing about it to me was just learning to find something interesting about it. I think a lot of the time, my only motivation for diet and exercise was, oh God, I gained more weight. I gotta get back in the gym. I have to do this. This is something I have to do. Yeah. I have to diet and I have to go to the gym. And it felt like just this horrendous obligation that I had, this weight on my shoulders. Oh God, I have to go to the gym. Yeah. And like, once I started to learn more about how diet and exercise works and how it affects the body and different methods and like kind of the science that goes into it, it became interesting, and then I got like hyper fixated on it, which is
Yes.
like I took the ADHD thing and I made it work for me.
Exactly.
Kind
Yes.
of. I hyper focused on all of this diet and exercise stuff, and then I couldn't stop. It was like, I'm interested in how does, reducing carbs affect insulin in the body, or how does what is the difference between doing a body part split and doing a full body workout, and what is like systemic muscle building mean? Like, how does that work? And there's all these different like scientific things that were super interesting that it took me a while to latch on to. And I think that that's a big thing with anything that you have to do in general. Try to find that little glimmer of what's interesting about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you go to a job and you're not into your job, and there's other people who are really into it, maybe you can see what it is that those people see in it. Yeah. And kind of be like, okay, that's what the interesting thing is about it, and try to latch onto that, and it may or may not work, but...
So I think that's really interesting that you and I came to physical fitness. We had similar but different paths, I guess, right? Like, we both have had experiences being like on the athletic side. Yeah. Like, we did athletics and we both did martial arts and stuff. Yeah. But then we've also both had that weight loss journey. Yeah. And so for me, it's like, and I joked to you before, it's like I'm the meathead out of the two of us. I'm the meathead jock, and you're the professor. You're the one that like has to understand everything. And I
feel like that title's already taken by somebody. But
yes, no, that's okay. I can't take that away from.
I am a professor.
You're a professor.
Liftology.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, it's like I just enjoy movement, and I enjoy using my body, and it's like an outlet for me, like for all that energy and stuff. And it just, I learned to just love that process. And, but having that like high school athlete mentality can sometimes be detrimental. Like, just always wanting to push harder. Yeah. And sometimes that's not the answer. And so, tempering that with some wisdom, I think, is good.
Yeah. If you're an athlete, well, this applies to anybody who, was an athlete in high school or college. Your association with physical fitness is like, I have to be fit enough to compete against other people. Yeah. But, what we're talking about is just getting more fit than you were last week.
Yeah, exactly.
Just can I squeeze out one more rep than I did last week? I'm not comparing myself to anybody else. I'm not competing against anybody else.
Just competing with yourself.
The average person. I mean, there could be like some ADHD bodybuilders out there. I don't know of any at the moment.
There has to be.
But there probably is one. I mean, that's a profession that lends itself to hyperfixation, so maybe. Yeah. But there's that kind of mentality of like all or nothing. And I saw a dude wearing a t-shirt that said all or nothing at the gym, and I was like, that t-shirt's stupid. I don't like that t-shirt, because nothing is nothing. But if you're not giving it your all, but you still give it something's more than nothing. So for me, it's like I might go to the gym and I lift, I squat 200 pounds or whatever. That's about where I'm at right now. 205 is what I just did today. And you might, that's like me giving it my all. That's as much as I could possibly lift for, 4 or 5 reps or whatever. Yeah. If I come home and I'm sore and I don't feel like I can go to the gym because my muscles are too sore, and I just sit and I do nothing, well, then I didn't get any physical activity. Yeah. And it's like, I can do a couple body weight squats. I could do, I could stretch a resistance band a few times. That's a little bit of physical activity. Yeah. Physical activity is incredibly important for self-regulation. Yeah. It kind of evens out your brain chemicals, even if your brain chemicals are dysfunctional to begin with. Yeah. That working yourself out physically, it just makes everything gel a little bit more.
It's all one system. People try to think like the mind is one thing and the body is a different thing, but it's all one thing.
Your brain is inside your body.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a body part. Yeah. And it's like, that's one of the silly things about like, treatment with ADHD medication. We hear all this like stigma around, the types of medicine. Yeah.
Don't get me started on that.
And it's just like, it seems like because the ailment is in the brain as opposed to the liver or the pancreas or whatever, nobody gets mad at a diabetic for taking insulin because their pancreas is dysfunctional. But my brain has problems, so I got to take pills for that.
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to get pills for it.
Yes,
I'm not. I'm actually in the process.
That's a whole different topic.
That's a whole different topic. But it's like, all of these things are connected and it's all the same. Your mental health is your physical health and vice versa.
Yeah.
If your mental health suffers, your physical health is going to suffer. If your physical health suffers, your mental health is going to suffer. So sticking to a diet and exercise program, it's good for all of it.
Absolutely.
You know? It's good for your brain. You got to work your brain out.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
So what's another one? Is there another barrier?
I think I have like 4 or 5 of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
give me another one.
My next one. So first one is scheduling and making the time. Right? Did I bump the time? Okay. Making the time. Right.
Yeah.
The second one is and we were talking about this at the gym earlier. When I don't, being an ADHD person especially, we are very, very good at, if something catches our interest, if we're passionate about something, we can go all day, we can fixate on it. But for me, if I have a particular exercise or a particular workout plan or a phase of a workout plan or a modality that I don't enjoy, it's like pulling teeth to try to get me to do it. Like probably the best example is mobility and flexibility work. I can't, it's a chore. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And so I have the best intentions, like, okay, I'm going to do my mobility every day. And then I do it for a couple days and it falls off because I get busy and first I kind of push it to the side. I'll get to this later, and then later becomes never. It's either now or not now, and
now or not now. That's right.
And so it becomes never.
I also wonder how much that like perfectionism kind of plays into that. Like you feel like you have to go through like a whole mobility workout where you hit every body part and you have to do it really thoroughly or else it doesn't count.
Maybe.
Which is not really the case. You can just do like 1 or 2 stretches. Which part of your body feels the most tight right now? You just stretch it out.
Right.
Takes a couple seconds. Now, that's a phrase that I hate. It just takes 2 seconds. I hate that.
Yeah.
Because I've heard that my whole life and it's like, well, yeah, the action of it just takes 2 seconds, but me like convincing myself to do it takes who knows how long that takes.
Yeah.
It takes an hour. It's like one way I like to explain ADHD to people is it's like most people, your brain is like a car and it's on pavement. And if you want to do something, you just hit the gas and you go.
Yeah.
And that's the way that's most people, they just go. And there's no in between.
And even if they don't really want to do it, they can just say, I got to get it done, and they just go.
Yeah, between the decision to do something and doing the thing, there's not really a delay.
Yeah.
But the ADHD brain is like a car that's stuck in soft mud while it's raining.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have to get unstuck first. I got to spin my wheels.
That's a great analogy, actually.
And then I have to get unstuck, and I've burned up a bunch of gas already, unsticking myself.
Holy cow, that's a great analogy.
Right, and then like I might run out of gas before I get to my destination. So, that's the thing is that like people love to use the word lazy. And lazy, that word upsets me so much.
Yes. Oh my God.
I hate that word.
The energy that we spend just keeping pace.
Yes.
With a neurotypical brain.
It looks like I'm not doing anything because I'm doing a bunch of mental and emotional work internally, and it might look like I'm sitting here staring at the wall or I'm eating a snack or whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, I got to do the thing. I got to do the thing. I got to do the thing.
Yep.
And that's something that people don't really understand, but that's
the hardest thing. And I'll tell you, just going to the gym today, like speaking about, having a certain exercise or a certain modality that I don't like to do.
Yeah.
The concept of body doubling.
Yeah.
Have you heard about that? Where it's just having somebody there with you kind of helps you stay on track.
Absolutely. Having a workout partner.
Yeah, having a partner. Just having you today, because like there's exercises, because we're on the same workout plan right now. And there's certain exercises that I'm just like, fuck that exercise. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And, but having you there kind of keeps me accountable. And even if it's not my favorite exercise, I'll be like, I guess we're doing it. Okay. And so that was really helpful.
I think that like the getting unstuck from the mud.
Yeah.
Maybe if you shorten the you shorten the goal. You're going for a smaller goal. So it's like, instead of doing this entire like yoga workout that's going to take me 45 minutes, I have to do this whole thing or I'm not going to do anything. Maybe it's just, I'm just going to do this one shoulder mobility thing because my shoulder has been hurting lately.
Yeah.
And then maybe once you've gotten up and you've already started, maybe then you can talk yourself into doing another exercise and kind of keep it going from there.
Momentum has a lot to do with it. Like, would you start the momentum like of whatever action, whatever activity it is, it's easier to get it going and then keep it going. But like, it's starting that's the hardest part.
Yeah. Starting, man.
And I think that's true. That's true of like an individual action, but it's also true of a pattern of like habitual behavior. Like
absolutely.
The starting a habitual behavior like working out is the beginning is the hardest part because you have to build momentum.
Yeah, and I mean I think that's true for everybody, but it just goes double for ADHD people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The hardest thing for me was like when I first started, especially because I was extremely overweight. Like any kind of movement really at all was terrible. I hated it. It's like if you're carrying that much extra weight, you start to think in terms of like, how long is it until I get to sit down?
Yeah.
If I'm carrying an extra 100 pounds, it's hard to just get up out of my chair. It's hard to do anything. It's hard to walk. It hurts my ankles and my feet to walk somewhere. And it's like you're stuck living your life in terms of when is the next time I get to sit down.
Right.
Which is also kind of paradoxical having an ADHD brain where I can't, like, I'm internally hyperactive, and then I can't even work that out physically. I'm like stuck in one spot, but my brain is just going.
You have a hyperactive brain that's trapped in a...
Yeah, I have more of like the internal presentation where there is like a hyperactivity there, but it's not like I'm like always bouncing off the walls.
Yeah, me too.
Kind of racing thoughts, and like I talk to myself a lot.
Yeah.
Just to kind of straighten everything out. Mm-hmm. But I will say, okay, another barrier, ADHD barrier, is impulse control, emotional eating.
That was one of mine, yes.
That was one of yours.
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of things there. Like, a part of the nature of having it is like you have a hard time with impulse control, and like it is harder to say no to the Little Debbie or the Butterfinger or whatever it might be. The thing that is, and the foods that you tend to choose if you're eating emotionally are not going to fill you up, but they're going to have tons of calories.
Right.
Like the sugary snacks, some of those Little Debbies have like 500 calories in like the little thing, and you wouldn't even know. Mm-hmm. And also,
I can go through a box of Little Debbies. Like,
I've done it before, and it's like, you probably just consume like 2,000 calories, and you're not even full.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is like, so there's the whole impulse control aspect of it, but then there's also the sensory sensitivity. Which can manifest itself in negative ways, like people, like I don't like wearing socks, like without shoes. Like socks and shoes together are fine, but if I'm wearing socks without shoes, like the feeling of like the material moving across my toenails is weird to me. Yeah. Sensory sensitivity. The reverse can also be true, is that I'm more sensitive to pleasurable things. So like the taste of food, the texture of food, it just lights my brain up. Yeah. And also that plays into the whole like dopamine deficiency. I'm looking for a dopamine hit.
Yeah, exactly.
And that promotes like addictive behavior and all these kinds of things. Yep. So it's all of those things at once that makes it really hard to get a handle on your diet.
Yes.
And the thing that... Wait, I lost my train of thought. ADHD moment.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, the thing about it is just like you can not only can you eat all this food that has so many calories, it's not going to fill you up. You'll also forget.
Yes.
Like, like food amnesia. Like I just had 800 calories, and maybe I'm trying to keep track, and I get to the end of the day. And I
like,
think
oh, I
I've
didn't do
had
that bad.
Yeah, I think I've had 2,200 calories today, but it turns out I actually had 3,000 and I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
So like there's all kinds of stuff that needs to be addressed. How do we handle all of this?
Yeah.
And I mean, a big part of it is just persistence. You know, and not getting discouraged by failure, even though we're going to be more easily discouraged than the average person.
And and we have a lot of failure.
There's a lot of failure that happens, and
just being able to get back up and say and have some forgiveness,
yeah,
like, and some self-compassion, which you have brought that to my attention with myself, like because I'm and I think this is very common in ADHD is like we have a real negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Which probably comes from our childhoods where we seemingly couldn't do anything right, and we had teachers and parents and everybody telling us that you basically just get your stuff together. What's wrong with you, kid? Just you can try harder.
And that's kind of the confusion around, like, it appears to be a behavioral problem when actually it's a neurological problem. And it's like, I might be trying as hard as I can, but I'm still not going to get my assignment turned in on time because I'm totally time blind. Like, I'm surprised every time I look at the clock.
Yeah.
And, like, not only have
Today has flown by the way.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, not only am I spinning my wheels in the mud trying to get started on an assignment, but I also don't know how much time I've spent on it or how much time it's going to take.
Yeah.
So, like, as a kid, like, I always felt like I'm trying as hard as I can, and there's always somebody, like, wagging their finger in my face, like, why can't you do this? And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you just, you go from everybody telling you that you're not doing well enough to now you're telling yourself that you're not doing well enough.
Yeah.
Even if you are. That's the thing, is you internalize that, and, like, it might be that you've actually done a great job, but you don't have that, like, you don't have that self-compassion, that negative self-talk is there. And it's important to just stop and just be like, well, wait a minute. Like, I did this, and that's progress.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I mean, it was kind of like you were talking about with your squats.
Yeah.
Earlier today, it was like, oh, I only squatted 105 pounds. My
squats suck. I can only do, like, 100 pounds. And
it's like, but, like... What, like 4 or 5 months ago, you were only doing like 45 pounds.
Yeah, I was doing like a goblet squat with a kettlebell.
Yeah, so your squat has more than doubled, and you've also learned how to do a barbell squat properly. I mean, I know that you've done that exercise before, but haven't really practiced it. And it's like, your squat form has improved.
Yeah, and like we were talking about, it's really a skill. It's much more of a skill than people realize, like learning, so practice that self-compassion of, like, give yourself credit. Give yourself credit that you are improving. And
absolutely give yourself credit. And there's going to be days where it doesn't feel like it feels like you can't do anything right, or maybe nothing that you've done is working. But it's like, if you're trying, you haven't failed yet.
Exactly.
Like, the failure only really comes once you've said, all right, I failed. Like, you kind of have to decide that you failed at this and that you're not going to try anymore. And it's like, with diet and exercise, it's the long game. It's like, I'm going to do this. This is going to be a lifelong pursuit. And, like, maybe I won't be able to do barbell squats when I'm 90 or whatever. But, like, I want to sustain this physical activity for the rest of my life. And it's like, once you start putting it into those terms, it's today, what I did today, it's not that much. It's not that much in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Today is just one day. If I didn't get to the gym today, if I had 5 Snickers today because I'm stressed out at work and I couldn't prevent myself from eating all the candy, like, it's okay. It really is okay. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
You just have to, like, go, all right, I messed up today. I'm going to try again tomorrow.
Tomorrow's a whole new day.
I'm going to try again tomorrow.
Exactly. Now, as far as offering solutions, because we're talking about a lot of the problems.
Yeah.
And I think we're talking about solutions too, but as far as, like, impulse control with food.
Yeah.
Because we've both experienced that. For one thing, I know that my discipline has to happen at the grocery store.
Yes.
If I bring it home, it's going to go in my face. So if I, like the other day when we were talking about, because I think I was texting you, like, I want sugar, what should I have? And instead of buying an entire box of, like Debbie cakes or whatever, I bought like one like Reese cup thing, and that's better. I got my fix, but I didn't bring a whole box home that I was gonna gorge on.
Yeah, and that's part of that whole all or nothing mentality. It's like people think that they're on the wagon and off the wagon with food, and like while it is like an addiction and you can kind of think of it in that way, you can't really ever stop eating. So it's not like any other kind of addiction. Like you can't just quit eating. Like I can't quit my food addiction.
Right.
I need food.
Yeah.
So like if you crave something like that, it's gonna be better in the long run if you just have it and count it. If you're tracking your calories, just count it in. And don't think of that as like, I've fallen off, so I'm just going to eat 5,000 calories of sugar now because I've messed up once.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Well, the day's all ruined.
Day's ruined.
Yeah.
I had one piece of junk food.
Yeah. Oh, I felt like there was something else there. ADHD moment.
Mm-hmm. Need a graphic for that. I don't know if we can.
Yes, we will. We'll get one. Oh, well, like bulking. So this is like since August I've been on a bulk.
Yeah.
And I think you have too, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't know about fitness and so on, the terminology and stuff, there's bulking and cutting, which is more like if you're just starting lifting weights, you probably don't need to worry about that. It's because there's such a thing as like newbie gains, where if you're just trying to eat healthy and get an adequate amount of protein, you will see progress with your weightlifting and so on.
Yeah.
You don't have to be super worried about, getting a bunch of calories or not enough calories. But at a certain point, it benefits you to try to bulk up and put on more muscle mass. And in order to do that, you need to increase your calories a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've been doing. And this is the first time in my life I've really tried it. And I think it's been beneficial for my, I hesitate to say binge eating, but I think that's.
I don't hesitate to say binge eating.
I think that's
for me personally.
I've never been diagnosed with anything, but
right.
But I've had binging episodes for sure. And that's like what those fat acceptance type folks will talk about. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? So they'll talk about how if you restrict and restrict and restrict, then that's going to cause you to just go off the reservation and eat just everything in sight and binge. And there's a lot of truth to that. Like if you're always restricting and you always feel deprived, then once you have that one little trigger, that one little thing, you're just going to go over the edge. And so bulking has kind of in some way like healed my relationship with food, where like I don't feel deprived. I don't need to eat everything in sight because I know that I can have more if I need it,
Right.
And so I think it's actually been beneficial to me to like kind of not count my calories and restrict so much. And
and well, you mentioned the fat acceptance folks. I mean, like people who talk about things like that, I think they tend to equate any kind of caloric restriction to an eating disorder.
Right.
But there's many types of eating disorders. And as ADHD people having impulse control issues and self-esteem issues that are prevalent within pretty much everybody who's got it universally. We're more prone to eating disorders than the average like neurotypical person.
Yeah.
So like
and just addictive behavior in general.
Addictive behavior. And so like an eating disorder isn't always anorexia or bulimia. Like those aren't the only eating disorders. Eating disorder could be binge eating. It could be orthorexia, which is an interesting one that's a little bit harder to define, but it's kind of like...
Remind me. I've heard it before, but...
It's where you're so obsessed with eating healthy that if you eat one little thing that's even remotely like not part of your plan, like you'll start having a panic attack, basically.
Yeah, okay.
So, and like, as far as like physical health goes, those people probably are the healthiest as far as any of the eating disorders, but that's definitely not psychologically healthy. No. You don't want to be so strict with yourself that you freak out if you mess up.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's all kinds of different severity with eating disorders, and maybe some people, you need to bring that up with your therapist. I highly recommend talking to a therapist.
Yes,
that's big. That's a big deal.
Yes, and we should probably mention that, and we didn't really like talk about introducing ourselves really, but I guess we can go in more depth as time goes on, but you're kind of experiencing our journey with us. We're not at the end of the finish line. I don't think there is a finish line.
No,
really.
there's not a finish line.
But so we have both been diagnosed with ADHD. You were diagnosed several years ago when you were in high school or middle school.
Middle school, actually.
And I just I've known for years I've had it, but I've just recently received a diagnosis, and I've been prescribed medication. I'm on Ritalin now, not at the moment, but I've been prescribed Ritalin. And you're still working on.
Forgot to take it today, or didn't take it today. I'm working on getting medicated. The thing about it was I was prescribed. I was prescribed medication when I was 12, and I was diagnosed with it. And all they ever really talked about was how well I paid attention in school. Yeah. And I think that really gave me like a false impression of what ADHD actually is. Yeah. Because I took the medication through middle school and through high school, and when I got to the end of high school, I was kind of like, well, I'm not in school anymore, so I don't need the medication anymore.
Oh, interesting.
So I got off of the medication, and then my life, like pretty much the entirety of my 20s was shit. Yeah. Because executive functioning, they only tell you about how well you pay attention in school. Mm-hmm. Well, executive functioning, that includes paying your bills on time, showing up to work on time, staying on task at work,
meeting deadlines,
like job performance, meeting deadlines, being responsible. If you have children, remembering to pick your children up from school or like whatever, like
cleaning your house,
keeping your house clean and organized, like everything, like all of the things, just like basic hygiene, even like taking a shower and brushing your teeth. Remember to doing that every single day. You have to take care of yourself, and all of that requires executive functioning. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea. And
nobody does. That's the thing.
That's the weird thing about it, is that like
ADHD.
I was diagnosed when I was 12, but I still have spent a good portion of my adult life wondering what's wrong with me.
Exactly.
Because it was never explained to me what it even is.
Well, most people don't even really have a good grasp on it. It's weird that ADHD is one of the most widely researched mental health issues. Yeah. And yet it's one of the least understood by the general public.
Yeah. It's actually, I think it's the #1 most researched and most like peer-reviewed mental health disorder that there is. It's #1. But like it's also the most misunderstood.
Yeah, but the general public just doesn't get it.
And it's confusing because like when you start listing the symptoms, pretty much everybody can think of a time when that happened to them. Yeah. So it's like, you have trouble paying attention, you're impulsive, you may be hyperactive, you may have trouble with motivation, with organization. Everybody can think, well, there was that one time that I was late, and there was that other time that I had trouble focusing, and there was that other time that I, whatever, that the other time that I couldn't motivate myself to clean the house. But it's like,
and so you hear people all the time who are not ADHD say, oh, I was a little ADHD today. And it's like, no, that's not what that means.
Or everybody has a little ADHD. Yeah. I hate that. It's like, no.
That's not what
Not everybody is a little ADHD. No. That's not how it works.
But it's very frustrating because, you're right. Like, the symptoms of ADHD are things that everybody deals with occasionally.
Yes. But we're not dealing with those things occasionally.
It's
like every minute of every day.
Yeah.
It's constant.
It's like you walk into the room and forget why you walked in there. Yeah, I do that like 15 times a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing that's really we're kind of getting off task a little bit, but that's okay. Because we're ADHD.
I'm not really too worried about staying on topic. Yeah. We'll come back to it.
But that's that, and then also, since we're on the subject, ADHD is kind of an invisible disorder. Like, other neurological disorders have some kind of
something visible about it.
Yeah, some cue that you can pick up on.
It either like affects the speech center of the brain, and you might have a speech impediment, or there's something that like people can look at it and be like.
And I'm not trying to disparage anyone or anything, but like, but as an example, like people on the spectrum, autism, they tend to have certain mannerisms and patterns of speech, and maybe they avoid eye contact. So you can pretty easily determine, oh, okay, I'm dealing.
Yeah, this person's struggling.
Is on the spectrum. Somehow.
Most people who are compassionate will see somebody who has like an issue like that and like be like, oh, okay, I understand. Yeah. But we don't really get that. Yeah, exactly. We don't get that, oh, okay, I understand.
And so because of that, because we seem fairly normal and our symptoms are things that everybody deals with occasionally, we get the people looking at us and essentially saying, just get your shit together.
Yeah, just try harder.
Just try harder. What's
I've been
wrong with
trying
you?
harder like this whole time.
Yeah, I've been trying hard for 20 years and it's not working.
It's not paid off. Not yet.
So.
But, I think that that's part of like why we're doing this is like we're trying to like figure out what are our strengths and how do we play to them. And I think that we have this like societal programming that says like, well, you have to go to school, you have to get a bachelor's degree or higher, you have to get a job where you work 9 to 5 and you work 40 hours a week, and you have to do this and you have to do that to be considered successful. But it's like, that's a model that is only based on one type of neurology. It's like there's only one type of person, well, which is most people, but it's only like neurotypicals really can respond to something like that and succeed. Whereas some people like us, we have to think a little bit more creatively. It's like, okay, this and this and that didn't work. So how are we going to work around that in a way that's gonna is gonna make us more prone to success in that, the stuff gets done even if we don't have the motivation, even if we don't feel like it. And I mean, that applies to what you do for a living. And that applies to, I don't know if you can see on the camera, this right here, this is I replaced my drawers with open shelves because I can't put anything away. It just doesn't work for my brain. So I got all the stuff out. This is my NASM trainer manual. I've got little tools and things for my guitars and such, and it's all out there and it's visible for me to see and use whenever I need it. And that's been helpful because it's like all of this stuff was just on my desk before. Like, it all just gets cluttered, and I can't put it away because as soon as I put it away, I don't know what's in there.
I had a very similar experience with my clothing.
Yeah.
Because like
I still haven't figured that one out.
It's still hard. But like dresser drawers and stuff, like I don't know. It's like you put it away and then I don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
And so like what I did was, and this is not what somebody might think I'm a weirdo, but I have some articles of clothing that are hung on hooks on the wall.
Yeah.
And then I have clear, like Rubbermaid tubs.
Yeah,
stacked
clear
up.
containers.
And so I have like shirts and pants and tank tops and whatever.
Yeah.
And so that is just much easier for me to be able to organize in my mind. And now instead of having a giant laundry pile on the floor, I actually have things put away.
It's kind of like look at what are you already naturally doing.
Yeah.
And then try to make what you're intentionally doing resemble that.
Yeah.
And so
and like I had what you just said.
Yes.
I had the corner by my where my closet and my bathroom was I would like end up just tossing the clothes that I just took off. Like I guess because it's like adjacent to the shower. I would like throw my dirty clothes over there. And so finally I had a big pile of clothes there and I'm like, why should I just put my hamper there?
Yeah, I had the same thing. It was actually right over there. It was right over there, and
it's like that's where I'm throwing the dirty clothes. That's where the hamper should be. Duh.
Yes, exactly. Totally. And my hamper tends to move around depending on the scenario, but I'll bring it in here a lot because the dirty clothes end up right there.
Yeah.
So like that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like try to like be mindful, and we can talk more about mindfulness and like it may be like meditation and those sorts of things. We can touch on that eventually. That can kind of help you learn to pay attention to yourself.
Yeah.
And not be like so just like oblivious as to what you're even doing, because I think that really comes with an ADHD brain as well. It's just like not like doing things and not even realize that you're doing them.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever left the TV remote in the fridge?
Not in the fridge, but I've left it weird places.
I've done that, or I like carry it with me to go get a snack, and I open it, and my brain is engaged by the snack.
Sure.
And I set it down.
I've left it on the kitchen counter for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's like learning to pay attention to yourself a little bit more, and have that like mindfulness. You can kind of start to observe how am I naturally doing things, and then start to make systems based around that.
Yeah.
And for me, well, it comes back to diet and exercise. The fact that I am an impulsive eater and I eat a lot and I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
I try to focus my efforts on like the most satiating, lowest calorie foods.
Yeah.
So like chicken and broccoli,
Okay.
basically. So it's like if
A lot
I
of
eat,
fiber, a lot of protein.
yes,
Yeah.
a lean like chicken breast, like boneless, skinless chicken breast, a pound of it, 16 ounces, is 440 calories.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is not much.
Yeah.
And then like 10 ounces of broccoli, over a half a pound of broccoli. That's about how much I start with for a meal.
Yeah.
About a pound of chicken and like 10 ounces of a green vegetable. That's another 100 calories. So 540 calories for like all this food. And it's like, as soon as I'm done with that, I'm like, man, I don't need to eat anything else. And then like I kind of have like staved off that feeling of just wanting to munch.
Yeah.
Because like I filled myself up.
I hadn't thought of this earlier, but that's another, I guess, barrier is not planning ahead, like for meals and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a huge one for me. Because like on the days or the weeks where I do meal prep, I do great. But then if I have a weekend where I don't meal prep, then it's like it's fast food and it's just kind of whatever I can grab.
We need to come up with strategies for that.
Exactly.
That's one that we definitely need to address. I think like I'm kind of the same way, and it's like as long as I am willing to start cooking.
Yeah.
I enjoy cooking. It's I find it engaging. Some people really hate it. So like
I like cooking. I think it's time management, and it's making the time to do it.
Well, it's just for me, it's just getting started.
Yeah.
You know, as with for anything else, it's like I have to spin my wheels in the mud to just get going.
Yeah.
And like to make a meal, I know it's going to take me like 30, 45 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
And just like I have to like stand there and like look at the kitchen counter for a few minutes. It's like okay, I gotta do the thing.
Yeah.
We gotta do the thing. The brain's gotta do the thing.
Yep.
And I gotta have the whole conversation. But I mean, for me at least, once I get started, it's not as bad.
Yeah.
You gain that momentum. But like we also need to come up with like more systems for how can we ensure that we're gonna still eat healthy when that doesn't happen.
Well, and you know, like meal prepping, for example, is not just meal prepping. It is making a grocery list, going grocery shopping, carving out a chunk of time on your Sunday to make some meals for the week or whatever. It's like there's there's a lot more that goes into it than just cooking. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's an interesting one because I didn't really think of that before. I have another one.
Okay.
I bet you haven't thought of this.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So, one thing that gets in my way, actually almost made me want to change gyms, okay?
Yeah.
Is the rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Which is not in the what's it called? The DSM?
The DSM-5.
It's not in the DSM-5 because I guess it's not easily measurable, right?
Yeah.
But it's pretty well accepted within the ADHD community that this is a thing.
Yeah. At least the emotional dysregulation part of it is.
Rejection sensitivity dysphoria, just having a more emotionally visceral reaction to be a perceived...
Unbearable.
Yes. To perceived rejection. It can be real rejection or perceived.
Yes.
And that's the key, okay? So, I started this new gym a few months ago, and I found a couple of gym crushes, as you do, right?
Yeah.
And so I had this gym crush, and I built up the courage to talk to her one day.
Yeah.
And I asked her just one question about an exercise, and she was very cordial and polite, but it was like clearly she was like, "Oh, I got a workout to do. Why is this like I'm not a personal trainer. Why are you asking me questions?" And so I had that one quick conversation with her, and then it was after that. I saw her a few times, and I kind of gave her like the what's up head nod, you know, and she just kind of ignored me. And so that perceived rejection is like that's almost enough to say, "Fuck, I gotta go to Planet Fitness."
Don't go to Planet Fitness. Don't go to Planet Fitness. It's not worth it.
Not worth it.
No, actually, Planet Fitness is a good place to get started.
Yes.
If you're worried about, if you at all feel like you're going to be judged if you go to the gym by people who are in shape, you're not going to be. Because people are mostly really friendly.
Yep.
But like the lunk alarm might be your friend when you first get started.
Yeah.
It might be. But
no, Planet Fitness is fine. It's just they don't have a bunch of like of the heavier like barbell.
They don't have
stuff
barbells
that you need. Yeah. So if you want to get
apparently
really
deadlifts aren't allowed.
which is so silly.
They have a rule against deadlifts.
So silly.
I don't ever run into that problem with the rejection sensitivity because mine is bad enough that I don't ever talk to anyone at all.
Okay.
So that's not a problem for me, I guess.
But that's, that is a barrier in life a lot of times.
It is.
Just in that situation. Now, I'm self-aware enough to realize that it's in my head and it's not, she probably hasn't thought about me twice since then, but in my head, it's like, she doesn't like me.
I mean, I feel like, and so I was listening to, I think I sent you that lecture from William Dodson. Dr. William Dodson, and he talks about rejection sensitivity, and he said that he thinks that it's like an inherent neurological part of ADHD, which it could be. I'm not by any means I'm an expert on anything, but I've heard other people's take on it that it is a childhood trauma response.
Yeah, and
that to me seems more plausible. Like that, when you grow up. From being a small child, being told that you're not doing well enough, it's like your brain is gonna just blow it up as soon as you get that little bit of like disapproval from anybody. I feel like it's more of a trauma response.
Yeah.
But either way, it's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
There's no debating.
The end result is essentially
the end result is the same. Yeah. But that's another barrier. I mean, for me, I feel like people probably think that I'm like an asshole or something. Like I have like resting bitch face because I never am friendly to anybody really.
Right.
But really it's just because I'm afraid that they're, not going to like me or that I'm going to be weird or whatever. Because I do have like a history of like people, I'm either shy and I don't say anything, or you flip that switch in my head where I'm comfortable around you and then I can't fucking shut up.
Yeah.
And like I think that that's something that all kinds of people, ADHD people definitely relate to that. I mean, I would say that a good portion of neurotypical people probably relate to that as well. But sure. That is one that I hadn't thought of about being a barrier to exercise. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, because it's once you get in your head that you're not like, I don't know, it makes you like less comfortable, I guess, to be in that environment.
Yeah, and you're overanalyzing it and like
and then you have to change your whole schedule. Now I got to work at night because they're going to be there in the morning. No.
Yeah.
No, and like I said, it's like I'm well enough aware that it really is just a perceived rejection. It's not an actual rejection. So
yeah. That's progress right there. That's progress where you're able to go, okay, this is like part of my condition and I'm responding this way because of that. And it's like, I really just need to take a second, step back, have a little perspective and try to chill out. And like, I know that's hard. We struggle with depression and anxiety and all these things that kind of build up over time. And it's, you can't always just chill. Yeah. That's not really helpful advice, but just try to have a little perspective on the matter.
Yeah, exactly.
It may not be as bad as you think it is. And trying to realize that it's probably not as bad as you think it is, it makes it a little bit easier to just kind of shrug it off.
Yep. Absolutely.
But did you have any more?
I
should have written some things down.
Did we already talk about writing things down, recording exercises, recording calories?
Yeah.
Things like that.
That's a big thing. One. Well, I never used I could never get myself to use MyFitnessPal because it's just riddled with barriers. It's just like I click on the thing and you have to enter all this information and it's not, if you hit the wrong button, it'll just delete it all. Then you have to start over and it's just I can't do this. I don't want to do this. And then I deleted it off my phone after recording one meal.
Yeah.
One thing that I did for that was I started planning out what I was going to eat for the whole day. Mm-hmm. And I would write it all down, and then I would add up all the calories, and then keep a list of my food.
I did that with MyFitnessPal.
Did you?
But I would just, in the morning, I would just go through and I'd plan my entire day in MyFitness, and just I'd stand at the, while my coffee's brewing in the morning, I'd stand in the kitchen and record everything I planned on eating that day. And when I when I was doing that, I was very successful.
Yeah.
The key is to keep doing that. You know?
Right. And I don't think that you necessarily have to keep tracking forever.
Yeah.
In order to be successful, but I do think that you have to track at least in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because like you need to develop that awareness of how much I'm really eating versus how much I'm expending calorically.
Yeah.
And that's just your energy expenditure. So how much energy the food has in it.
Yeah.
If I don't use up all the energy, it's going to get stored somehow. If you're lifting weights, it might get stored as muscle tissue. So that's not
good.
That's not always bad.
Right.
But if you don't lift weights, it'll almost certainly get stored as fat.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is just like knowing what foods have protein, what foods have carbs, what foods have fat, and knowing like what a healthy source of each one of those things is. So it's kind of like,
and learning, what are the less calorically dense foods that you can substitute in for,
right.
Like you were talking like chicken and broccoli, is that you can have a big giant meal for relatively few calories.
Right, exactly.
And I think the process of recording calories teaches you that, you know?
Yes, exactly.
Because over the course of time, you're like, oh, well, shit, I had 500 calories worth of chocolate and I wasn't full at all.
Yeah.
But I had 400 calories of chicken breast and I can barely move now because I'm so stuffed.
Exactly.
So those,
exactly.
You can understand those. Somebody can tell you that, but it's much more impactful when you learn it by doing and by recording it.
Yes. And I think that can tend to be you don't always have to use an app. Like I would just write it down on a piece of paper. And I mean, when I start cutting, I'm going to probably do the same thing. Cutting is the opposite of bulking. I don't know if we talked about that.
Yeah.
Bulking is eating in a caloric surplus for the purposes of putting on muscle. Cutting is eating in a caloric deficit, meaning you're burning off more than you're taking in for the purposes of losing fat.
Which is only half the equation, but most people, that's the only thing
that's a big thing. That's a big thing. That's a big thing.
Yes. And I don't know if that's a whole topic for a different podcast, but
it might be. But
you can touch on it. But
well, I just want to say, like, we had this whole obesity epidemic, and I really mostly blame processed food. It wasn't until like the Industrial Revolution where factories were churning out food until this happened.
Yes.
And it's like you get if it's in a package and it comes in a box and it's made in a factory and it's not just like one thing, if it's not a plant or an animal, it's probably processed and it's probably more calories than you need to have.
Yeah.
In general, if you want to just use that as like a regular guide, like a general guideline.
Yeah. General guideline.
General, but the thing about it is like they try to address the obesity epidemic by just telling everybody eat less and move more.
Yes.
That's the messaging.
And everybody knows that. And then what happens? You have people who say, well, 95% of diets don't work, or 95% of people who try a diet will gain all that weight back and plus some. And
because dieting crashes your metabolism.
Yeah.
Right? People say this. This is something that people love to talk about when they want to say that diets aren't going to work because the statistics are kind of alarming.
But it's because people don't know what to do after the diet.
Right. So, like, eat less and move more, people tend to interpret that as starve yourself and do cardio.
Yeah.
Which is not the best approach.
No.
It's not the best approach.
Not at all.
You want to increase your energy expenditure, which we'll have a whole video on that eventually. Increase your energy expenditure so that you're just burning more calories all the time.
Yeah.
And then you can reduce your calories by like this much, just like by like 300 calories, 500 calories less, which is not that much.
Right.
It's not that much. And over time, your weight will trend down. And that kind of goes back to the trust in the process sort of thing. But if you bulk and you put on muscle, if you have a consistent muscle building signal happening, that means the calories are getting repartitioned into your muscle tissue and your muscle tissue is metabolically active, meaning that it's burning off more calories just sitting there. So you have two modalities already within your body that are generated by lifting weights that increases your energy expenditure. So I would say that instead of eat less and move more, what we should have instead is eat healthy and get strong. I feel like that's equally digestible and 10 times as impactful. If you just live by that, try to get stronger and eat healthy food. Eat natural whole foods. Don't eat the processed shit.
Yeah.
that'll get you more than halfway there.
Absolutely.
Eat healthy and get strong.
Eat healthy, get strong.
And I think we're about out of time, actually. It's been about an hour.
It's our show. It can be as long as you want, but
Yeah, well, we want ADHD people to listen to it, though.
Oh, that's very true.
It's already been an hour.
Good call, yeah.
So if you like ADHD fitness, give us a like, subscribe, comment, hit the little bell icon so you never miss a video. Catch us next time.
Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.
That was good.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you finished that like a pro, dude.